been a few years since I did this video series on my beta reader process, and honestly, I just realized recently as I went through probably like my 10th or something like that beta reader process, a lot of that's still true, but a few things have changed. Don't get me wrong, those videos are still awesome. All of those videos are still accurate, like how to find beta readers, how I work with them, how I use their feedback and compile it and all that stuff. It's not that I have fully changed. There's still so much in those videos that's true, but I feel like I've streamlined my process and tweaked things to make them so much better, so much easier and faster, and just more fun for both sides. So I wanted to share just the updates. I'm not going to go super in depth on all the things that I covered in those other videos because you can still go watch them below. They're still really relevant and have tons of awesome info. I'm just going to tell you a few specific things that have changed. Before I get into it though, let me just share really quick what a beta reader is, because obviously you can use Google and that's very smart. I appreciate everybody who does that and doesn't ask me things that they could ask Google very easily, but there are differing opinions on like when to work with beta readers and what exactly they should be. So I wanted to give you my perspective, which is that literally any reader whatsoever can be a beta reader. They do not have to be a writer, and it does help if they are a reader of your genre, but basically anybody who would pick up your book to buy it would be a fantastic beta reader, because they are literally just a beta test group who is helping you figure out if your book is going to have its intended effect on its intended audience. So just like anything else that would have a beta test group, it's prior to it going public and prior to it launching, aka publishing in this case. I was once in a food test group, which was really, really fun, and I don't really remember how I got into that. I was pretty young, but we got to try all these crazy, strange mixes and things that people had come up with. And so think of it like that. You're sharing a product that's edible or readable in this case. It needs to be good. You're not giving them something like your first draft, okay? But it's also maybe got some glitches, maybe some weird tastes, like it's really strong with the cinnamon and that's way too much for the majority of your readers. Or in your beta reader group, the romance is not strong enough for the majority of your beta readers. So they tell you to build it up and you spend more time building it up. So I hope that gives you kind of a visual of, you give it to your betas when it's as done as you can possibly make it, but you know you still need feedback before you make it public. I hope that makes sense. So I highly, highly recommend beta readers. I've had them on all of my books. They make a world of difference because they just have a different perspective than you do. You are only one person. You can't predict how a large number of people are going to respond to your book, but if you get at least 3 or more readers, you can start to get a sense of multiple perspectives and a broader range of reactions to your story. So I hope I've sold it well enough. Again, watch my other videos if you want to know how I found my beta readers, beginning practices such as, you know, how I sent it to them, questions that I asked at the time, and the way that I compiled feedback. But now I'm going to go into the things that have changed. And the first one is the number of betas that I worked with. I started out ginormous. I didn't know really what a beta reader group should be, so I put the word out way back with Evelyn's number as a debut author, and I took absolutely everybody and I asked absolutely everywhere. So I had, I think it was somewhere around 30 beta readers. It was way too many, way too many. No shade against them. I really appreciated all of my beta readers in that group, but the problem was that even though a few of them backed out, there was still so many voices, and I sent out an individual Word document to all of those people, so I got probably somewhere between like 25 and 28 Word documents back with individual feedback. And let me just tell you, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's clear, but that was incredibly, incredibly overwhelming. I was just, what do I do with this information? I don't even know what to do. I ended up compiling it, like individually copy and pasting and organizing everything, trying to put it all into one Word document that I then printed, and it was like probably 100 pages. It was ridiculous. And I realized that at a certain point, the really obvious stuff was repeated. Like, for example, the first 3 people would point something out and I'd be like, okay, I got it. I need to fix that. I understand. That's the rule of 3 that I talk about in those videos. And then the next 20 people would go on to point it out. And I was like, I got it. I know, I've got it. Like, I have the feedback. So when it comes to getting that majority or that consensus of big things that the group generally agrees need to change, 30 people is too much. In fact, I would say 20 people is probably also too much. Over all of my following books, I kept bringing the number of beta readers down until with the Enchanted Crown, I think I had 7 or 8. I think it's in the back in acknowledgements if you want to check. That number was perfect. And so I continued on with the people in that group for The Secret Gift, which is my next book coming out. And it ended up actually, just because of life circumstances, I think the group has kept getting smaller and smaller, but I've been okay with that because honestly, 5 this time around was absolutely fantastic as well. What I realized is that I still get, as long as they're really solid beta readers who are actually reading and doing the work and being super helpful, which all of mine are, and they're wonderful, wonderful people, then I have more than enough information. And this smaller number of beta readers allows me to do some of the other changes that I want to share with you. The next thing that changed is how we did feedback. And so I'm going to show you some of my new tools that I use that have helped me so much. But honestly, I wouldn't be able to use these tools the way that I do now if I didn't also have this smaller group. So let's get into it. It's really like 3 different things, but I'm gonna lump them all together under this feedback umbrella. So first of all, we use Google Docs. And this has been fantastic because instead of sending out individual Word documents to every single person and then getting individual Word documents back and having to compile them and put them all together, and you know, I don't even know if they're reading it, if they've started, etc., until I get the document back in my inbox whenever they finish. With Google Docs, there's a couple plus sides. I get to see that they're in it and working on it and commenting, but also they are all reading from the same document. It's just one spot, one document that I have to deal with instead of like 5 or 10 or 20. The second thing that I do in that document, which you could also do in a Word document, but not in the same way, is that I now allow my beta readers, and appreciate when they do, leave comments. And so originally, if you remember back when I had 30 people and I was sending out individual documents, I had, what was it, like a 300-page something story, and I had that times 30 people. So how many pages would that be? I'm gonna put the math here after I use a calculator. That's a lot of pages. That is terrifying. And so to imagine letting my beta readers leave comments and having to scroll through all 300 pages 30 different times was just absolutely, I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. There's no way. So with this document, because it's one document instead of a bunch of individuals, it's just scrolling through one time, but also it's a smaller group of people. So even if they comment a lot, it's still not an overwhelming amount. Again, this is a feature you could absolutely let your betas do in Word or probably other programs too. And I just love the comment feature in general. Like my critique partners and I, and of course editors as well, use the comment feature in Word. But when you're working with a group of people, oh my gosh, the Google Docs is so much better because it's all just, again, in one place. I don't have to get 5 different individual documents and pour through all the pages. It's just one time, just scrolling through the book one time to get everybody's comments. So that is just a huge relief. But also the reason I started using the comments, like I always wanted them, it was just too overwhelming in the past. But the reason that I love using them now is because now that it's a smaller, more manageable group, they are able to leave more detailed comments on things that I would never even think to ask in the questionnaires that I do, which I still do. But the questionnaires only can cover so much, and they might not cover like a really tiny detail. In fact, there's tons and tons of details in here that I did not think to ask, and I'm so thankful that my beta readers pointed it out because I probably would have never even considered those things. And on top of that, it also lets them add fun reactions when they just like something or they're surprised by something. And so I get to read like real-time reactions to the story and find out what's working as well as what's not working, which is really, really fun. The third feedback thing that I do differently, but I've been doing it differently for a little while now, I just haven't really told you guys because I haven't updated my process for you here on the internets, but I like to use Google questionnaires, or Google Forms I think is what it's actually called, for the questionnaire portion. So I always had a questionnaire words I always had, you know, a standard set of questions at the end of every, say, 2 or 3 chapters or so, just to get a sense of how are you liking the characters? How is the pacing? Are the stakes strong? Is there anything that's confusing or not believable? Is there anything you can't picture? All of those kind of good questions that I still really, really love. But the issue, again, was that I was putting that in a Word document. And so I was getting all these individual questionnaires that I would then have to copy, paste, and like get everybody's answer to question 1 all in order. Okay, now let's answer everybody's question 2. Okay, and it's just, again, that process was clunky and frustrating. Not the worst, but it could take me, I remember there was a couple times where it took me almost a full week to compile everybody's feedback. Again, I had a bigger group and I had individual Word documents and I was trying to compile it all manually versus using the Google Forms, right? I call it Google questionnaires in my head, but Google Forms allows you to ask those same questions, but then they put it straight into an Excel spreadsheet, all lumped together for you. All the answers to question 1 lumped together, all the answers to question 2 lumped together, and so on and so forth. And so I just do a slight bit of formatting so that instead of it going from left to right, I can get it to go from top to bottom. It's just a little bit of copy pasting. It takes literally 5 minutes or less to get everything in that questionnaire printed out and ready to go. And I have it in my hand. It's amazing. Let me show you. There we go, right here, printed out. So keep in mind that this is a short story, and also I had worked with my beta readers leaving comments in the document before, so I trusted them to like leave feedback as they went and, you know, put things in there if they needed to. So I only did 1 questionnaire at the end, and that's a new thing for me. Not something I would do for a novel. I would definitely put in more, like I would definitely need a midpoint questionnaire, the end obviously, and then probably a few in the middle. But in this case, again, it was a short story, so I have 4 pages of answers here, and I asked questions like, what are your initial thoughts and reactions after reading these chapters? That's a question that I have carried over time because honestly, it's open-ended. It lets them include something that I might not have thought to ask about. I also include what's your favorite scene and why, and then least favorite scene and why, because those 2 have also been extremely beneficial to me to know if there's something that it's not working for beta readers and I just need to cut it out, or on the flip side, to know if there's something they really, really love and I could use that for quotes, or I could just know, don't delete this part is working. I also like to ask about the characters. I've realized how much characters matter and how important they are, so I ask about the characters' big picture to see if they have any like open-ended feedback, and then I go into all the main characters and make sure, like, okay, for Jezebel, does it seem like she struggles enough with her gift because she's just beginning to use it and have it in this story, and is her negative character arc believable? Things that would apply to your main character. Is my main character coming across well-rounded? Are they, I don't know, it's very specific to your character. So the goal is to ask questions that you really want to know the answer to, and is this working? And like be open-minded in case it isn't working so that you can fix it. I ask about particular magic things and the world building and a relationship and the stakes and the pacing. Absolutely important to ask about the pacing. Like, did the stakes feel high enough? Was it believable, or was there any point where it didn't seem believable? And of course I asked about the ending, and I like to make sure that it's coming across well, that they're satisfied. You know, if there are questions, like I put in there as well, are there any other questions that you might have? You can check if they are questions that need to be answered, or if they are questions that are good, that will lead to maybe the next book in the series, for example. And then one other thing that has definitely changed, again, because I have a smaller group and because there are people that I trust, is I thought of more questions after they finished reading and I had gone through their feedback, and I was like, oh my gosh, should I change this? And what about this? So I was able to email them and ask and just say, hey, I have more questions for you. Is that okay? And because they are, again, a smaller group, people that I trust, I was able to do that. I can't remember if I shared this, but I don't think this part has ever really changed for me. I print it out for a reason because I like to, sometimes I'll highlight if things are really standing out so I know where to start. Kind of gives me a visual for where I'm starting with my feedback. And then as I complete edits, I like to cross them off again for that visual, because I'm such a visual planner, to see this edit's been done. It feels good. It's such a good way to track your editing and see, okay, is there anything actually left that's not crossed out? Okay, good. I'm done with my edits. So that is another thing that has not changed, but I love it. I'm a little all over the place with this tip. I hope this is making sense. But again, the thing that has changed is I still do feedback the same way. I still compile everything into one document so that I can then cross it off thing by thing. You know what I mean? But I feel like the actual process of compiling it has changed from taking like a whole week to being about 5 minutes. One other bonus note that I would like to include, because I don't remember and I don't think I did include it in those original videos, but that I think is really important to note, is to give your beta readers a shout out in your acknowledgement section. I think this kind of goes without saying, but if you're anything like me and you just kind of like check things off a list and you just sort of miss the stuff that's not on the list, I do this all the time, then it can help to hear it from me. Add it to your list, add your beta readers and thanking them in your acknowledgements to your publishing to-do list, because these people, seriously, they make the book so much better. And so I wanted to give a shout out in this video to my beta readers for the secret gift. They gave me permission to share this stuff in this video, and I just want to say thank you to them. They don't even know how much it helps me. It's just hearing a reader's reaction and realizing, oh, that was in my head, but it did not make it onto the page. It is super helpful. They make the story so much better. So props to all beta readers out there. If you are a beta reader or you ever want to be for another author, just know that all authors appreciate you so much. Other than that, my process really hasn't changed that much. So I'm going to refer you back to those older videos that I mentioned. I will link all of them below in case you want to watch them. And I hope you don't mind the video quality. I was still learning, so be patient with me. But I thought Penny wanted to say bye. Now she's acting a little bit miffed at me. Can you say bye? Okay, well. Oh, is there a puppy coming? Okay, she's ready for some food. So I'm going to close out this video and I will talk to you guys again very soon. Bye. Want to come in, Penny? Come in. Come on. Here she comes. Come on in. Hi, baby girl. Hi. You want to say hi to everybody? Can you say hi? Say hey, guys. Who's the cutest puppy ever? You are. All right, okay, you can go.